at home as moms, like how do we bring balance? And so our background in traditional Chinese medicine is perfect for that, because it's really what Chinese medicine is about. It's always looking for homeostasis. We call it the three treasures. We're looking at the spirit, the energy, and the essence. And so when one of those gets out of balance, then we tend to kind of spin out in an area. And you know, and our job as practitioners, we're to find which remedies, perhaps it was acupuncture that a person needed, and put that all together. And then it morphed into creating products that went beyond the clinic walls. And now we're actually in some national chains like Sprouts and Fresh Time and mom and pop grocery stores. And then we still have our line for doctors that, you know, has been around for all this time. And I love working with kids. So that's been, you know, really near and dear to my heart, and been the impetus for kind of going beyond what we knew as a clinical practice. It's like, well, we can help so many people one-on-one, but if we could educate, because that's the inquiries we were getting, is like, well, how do you use this and why does it work this way? And then providing the product or the formula, we now have all these barefoot doctors, which is what we're called in China, is, you know, everybody there's a barefoot doctor, because they know enough to keep their families healthy
Yes.
with foods and herbs and so forth.
Yes. And that's what we've got in this audience in particular with Healthy Gut, Happy Child. This is a sea of moms, the barefoot doctor moms who are taking care of their families. Uh,
Yeah.
in the interview that you did with me for Feeding Kids Today, we really got into your family history
Mhm.
and what's happened with your own children that has
Mhm.
really motivated you hugely. And that was wonderful. And I think today, anyone that wants to hear that, please definitely join us at Feeding Kids Today. And right now, let's get right into your products and how they can really quickly support some big speech and behavior improvements, because especially now that we've all been at home for so
Mhm.
long, um, I'm sure lots of families are seeing new things in their kids that maybe they want to give some attention to. And I know that, like, I've been seeing interesting things even in my own, with my own kid, who I thought I
Mhm.
knew pretty well. You know, we think we know our kids well. And then all of a sudden, here we are, like, doing writing together every single day. And like, I'm seeing, like, little challenges with his writing. I'm seeing his focus, what works, what doesn't work. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we might have some other issues here that I never would have known about, right? So I immediately thought of your products, and right now we are really loving your Saito Flora. This is
Mm.
what we've been taking lately, and then also my son and I, have been enjoying your Happy again.
That's so great.
So, do you want to start there, or do you want to
Sure.
other products?
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I mean, let's start with your kid. I mean,
Right.
you know, it's perfect. Um, you know, Cytoflora was developed because we learned something about probiotics, which is that when they're whole and we want to use them to colonize, we need many billions of CFUs. That's coliforming, you know, units per gram to colonize the gut. But they have a lot of work to do, because generally speaking, we tend to have more of the bad guys. And where the magic in a probiotic is inside the cell. That's where the immune enhancing properties are in a probiotic. And so we found that if we use this cold process we developed for our chlorella on probiotics, we release that beneficial cytoplasm, which is the immune healing part, into the liquid. And it was like, wow, we could decrease leaky gut by 27% in 21 days, or gut inflammation by 55% in 21 days. And it's, wow, what is that difference? And so that difference is, you know, we've now got this stealth fighter coming in and pushing the bad bugs out versus, you know, kind of the slow boat to China kind of thing. Come in, you got all your guys need to get in and survive, and then they fight, and some will win, some won't, and, you know. So, you know, and not to say that live probiotics aren't good. They are good and they're appropriate when we've cleaned up the terrain or doing them in conjunction with cleaning up the gut terrain. But there is a difference if you want to move really quickly with things like Saito Flora. So in our study, what we saw was not only those decrease in those two issues, but we saw a decrease in 7 different bad bugs that were, you know, proliferating the GI tract in our kids in this study. And what we saw was that 100% of them improved in speech, no matter where they were at. Their parents reported they were more empathetic, loving, and cooperative, which I thought was just so cool. And we had kids that had never played with their sibling before out in the yard. And this mom said she looked out the window and her 2 sons were tossing a ball, playing catch. And her younger boy, who was 6, had never done that with his older brother before. So we just had all these kinds of amazing things happen in this study. You know, it's so great to study because it's a real microcosm. You can't, you know, food stays the same. If they're on a remedy, that stays the same. So you're really comparing apples for apples. And what happens when we intervene with this one single product or ingredient? And that's what we got to see. We saw kids that understood their environment more thoroughly, like, you know, the water running underneath the ice, just like it did when there wasn't ice. The water still moves underneath the ice, you know. And the mom was like, I almost crashed the car. Like, I'd never heard these kinds of complex thoughts from my son before. So really that gut brain axis really heals when we tend to the gut in this way. And we, you know, I surmise that the dopamine, serotonin, you know, that's why we saw kids wanting to be social, wanting to be cooperative. That was the difference, was they were being soothed from the inside out.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is what we all want for our kids. And I have to say right now for ourselves, there's a lot to be stressed about, and it's really taking a toll on our neurotransmitter production, on our mineral access. And I really think this is a fantastic support right now. And I'm so grateful that we happen to have it. And so we didn't have to worry about any delays with shipping. Although right now I feel like deliveries are much faster now than they were even 4 weeks ago. So.
Yeah, we haven't had a problem. Really, you know, we are considered an essential business, so we've been able to stay open and keep manufacturing going, and you know, shipping people are showing up every day.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And right now, actually, through the Feeding Kids Today show, you have offered an incredible 15% discount across the board for all of your products. So that's another great reason to sign up for Feeding Kids Today. Super, super generous discount. And I know there are other really special things that you can do to relieve some of these issues really quickly with kids.
Well, which one you were talking about that you and your son both take Happy, right?
Yes.
So what had you pick that up?
Well, we were getting kind of stressed and cranky, and and I know that it helps kind of weed out the pathogenic stuff that affects our mood. But I just thought, I'm just going to go with the labels. This is how BIORAY designed them, and so this is what I'm going to pick. And it's been great, and I love that it actually neither of these tastes bad. This is one of the things that I deal with a lot with kids. They don't swallow pills. And I love your tinctures because they're so easy. And then if it tastes bad, then a kid doesn't want to eat it. And these both actually taste fine.
Yeah. Well, the Happy, that whole line was, the flavor profile was created by the flavoring guy from Celestial Seasoning Teas. So he knew what to do, and he married those specific fruit juice concentrates with the specific herbs that were inside. But that actually happens to be the formula that has two forms of artemisia in it, and wormwood, and, you know, green walnut hull, and some pretty bitter things. But it's amazing what it tastes like with the peach juice concentrate. But it is wonderful for the neurotransmitters and really helping keep those microbes down, and you know, then the spirit's able to flourish. That, you know, it can just come in alignment with the nervous system. And yeah, and there's adrenal support in there as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with moms, I always start supporting the moms
Mm-hmm.
when we start working together, because I know from personal experience, if I'm stressed and scattered and overwhelmed, then it's really hard to do another thing for my little boy. And this was especially after he'd completed 10 months of chemo, and he's doing great now, and I'm so grateful. But at that point, I was really stuck, like in an overwhelmed place. And it wasn't until I started taking care of my nervous system and kind of dealing with my own issues that I was able to help him, and that he
Mm-hmm.
was able to respond to any of the things that I was helping him with. And one of the things that I love bringing in for moms early on, if they've got dysbiosis, is the artemisia and cloves that you make, because it's really gentle. There are a lot of things out there, like in the big world of supplements, that are really, really harsh and can cause more problems. And so you just reminded me of that there's artemisia in the happy, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I usually involve at your practitioner level. So
Yes, and that formula specifically was balanced to buffer that it didn't have a harsh impact on the lymph or the liver, which the original formula from Holga Clark did. And so it's buffered with the American ginseng. It's got lion's mane in it, which is so amazing for the brain. It's just really been, I mean, honestly, we've even given that to small babies who've had,
oh,
you know, some cases of, you know, loose stools and stuff, and it works really fast.
so nice. So artemisia and cloves is what we were
Mm-hmm.
just talking about. In case anyone wants to do a little more research, if their children or themselves are having gastrointestinal upsets, or
A
mood
microbe
issues,
imbalance.
microbe imbalance. Yes.
Yeah.
I really love talking about the different ways we can shift what's happening inside our guts to get these results. And you touched on several of them. You know, we can bring in probiotic, the actual probiotic cultures, and then when they get in our guts, they're kind of like, you know, they're trying to find real estate. They're trying to get rooted. Maybe they're just passing through. Maybe the population's in there, like, get out, get out, get out. And there's some fighting going on. So all these different things come up. And then you've created this amazing Saito Flora, where you're bringing in just the most beneficial concentrated aspects of the probiotic cells from inside the cytoplasm, so that
Mm-hmm.
they can do their work without having to expend all that energy trying to jostle for a place to stay. They can just pass through and do their work, which is incredible. And you made me think of my garden. Actually, we have a big section of our garden where we planted some kale and arugula years ago, and every year we let it flower and seed. We eat a ton of it, but we let a lot of it flower and seed, and so then it seeds itself, and there are bajillions of seeds, and there's a little bit of there are a little bit of weeds now and then, and
Mm-hmm.
probably like twice or maybe 3 times a year I'll really pay attention, unless it's something really big that I see when I'm walking by. I'll pull it out, but I don't really do that much weeding.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go in and weed a little bit now and then. And over the years, it really has become almost weed free. Very few weeds in there, because it's self-seeding. We've got some chard, and you know, it's just kind of running itself in this really healthy way. And I always think of our guts when I see that.
Mm-hmm.
That little bit of weeding here and there, nurturing the good stuff, how can BioRay support that process? Like, where do you see the biggest opportunities? Like if someone is new to BioRay and this
Mm-hmm.
whole concept.
Well, first, to just kind of understand what is in a liquid herbal remedy. So, our herbal remedies are whole formulas, they're not a single ingredient. And that makes a difference because it means that we've created, it's almost like a protocol in a bottle. So, for example, in many of the kids' formulas and the daily formulas, I address the adrenals. There's adrenal herbs in there to help the body become more adaptable and deal with stress more easily. That's one of the key things to longevity. This is how we'll live a long life if we're not stressed out, and that squashes our energy, our ability to have good energy. And then there's specific other things like how's the gut doing? How are the bowels doing? How the liver doing? Those are our elimination pathways. And when things are moving out, oh my gosh, like the head is clearer, the emotions are clearer. And when it starts getting stopped up, that's the first place I look, is, are the bowels moving? How's your GI doing? Is your liver able to
And when
process
it starts
toxins?
getting stopped up, that's the first.
And then we can actually do some heavy lifting once that is all established and things are moving down and out. Things like removing heavy metals and chemicals and going after parasites. That becomes much easier when the organs of elimination are processing things really, really well.
Mhm. Nice. Nice. So start with the liver. And we actually have some liver life here also. Is there do you with kids, is there a particular kids line that you like to?
Well, so Liver Lover is the practitioner strength of our liver formula, and it's going to work on the liver, and it has a little bit of kidney drainage as well. But for kids that are under 12 and you want to have a little bit of adrenal support built in and a little bit of our micronized chlorella to bind some of the icky toxins, that would be Calm. So that really helps with kids with, frustration, anxiousness, can't sit in circle, maybe getting, hitting their neighbor, hitting their sibling. Those are all what we call liver chi stagnation issues. So the liver is not processing toxins, and so they back up, and then we see those emotions get expressed.
Yeah.
And so that's a great one for that, for sure.
Nice. And I'm thinking of, you have such deep knowledge in Chinese medicine and Oriental medicine, and you mentioned qi. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super, I know very little about this, but is liver associated with anger? I know lungs are
Mm-hmm.
connected to grief, liver is
Mm-hmm.
anger. What?
Liver's anger or frustration, more frustration, anxiousness,
Okay.
right? Anger is more your parasites. So as those grow and lay more eggs, that what they metabolize and poop out is a neurotoxin for us. So
Okay.
it directly impacts that, the nervous system to the brain. And it's just like, my nerves are on fire. It's like somebody's stepping on, our last nerve, and we're snappish and we don't know why. And, a parent may say like, oh my gosh, my angel child is like just slowly becoming, I don't know who, they're mad all the time, but for no apparent reason. You
Yeah.
got to look at parasites for when that starts happening.
Yeah.
That's what they tend to bring with them. Yeah.
Okay. And so then where would you direct a parent with that anger?
So I would direct a parent to Happy,
Yep.
which you've got Happy. For teens and adults, I would do Microbe Slayer,
Right.
which is a stronger version of that, with a little additional liver support too to help. The smaller kids don't tend to need that in that formula. And then on the, the very strongest form we have is the one that you mentioned that you use and recommend, which is Artemisian clove. But now again, that one's not going to be buffered with adrenal support or liver support. So, those might need to be added in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing. So any other things that you'd love for people to know right now? We're going to get a lot of views as people are getting through their days. I know that
Mm-hmm.
lately the online terrain has been a little different as moms are like occupied like multiple times through every minute of their waking day.
Mm-hmm.
So
The thing the thing that I really notice about my, I'm a mom, but my mom friends as well is, I'm just so proud of them. I'm so proud of all of us moms. We're handling everything that we ever did, and we're now the teacher, or we now like taking care of ourselves is more important than ever, like finding a little nook in the house and just putting a candle and something soothing, a flower or a beautiful vase to look at. It's become more imperative today for us to actually just take a moment to calm down that parasympathetic dominant, fiery, like, oh my gosh, everything's coming at me at once, but to just pull away for a minute. And I have more friends saying, like, that's been my saving grace, is taking a moment and doing their adrenal support and helping their body, because we're using more adrenal energy right now. That's why the adrenal support in loving energy has been so important to moms who just say, I couldn't make it through the afternoon without it. That's about when my nerves say, okay, enough, lady. What do you have? A cup of tea? Like, I need something. And so, it's loving energy. It's a really wonderful formula based on Taoist monks who they actually pray for peace every day. That's their job. And they go through the kitchen and they take about 3 or 4 cups of loving energy tea every day to replace that adrenal energy that they're giving out from praying for peace on the planet. And we're kind of the same. We're giving out this vital energy to raise our kids, to be loving human beings and feed our families. And so we need to replenish as well. And that's what loving energy is. It's a wonderful adaptogenic formula with medicinal mushrooms. And it's peace in a bottle, pretty much.
oh my gosh, loving energy. Yes, we
Yeah.
all can use that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you so much for spending this time with us here. I really, really appreciate it,
Thank
Stephanie.
you, Alyssa. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and your weekend. And everyone, treat yourself to some loving energy. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I think we might still be here.